Simon Marshall with Keith Hillier in the studio. Max Presnell in Sydney. Big day yesterday, big day today with the Liston Stakes at Sandown and the up-and-coming in Sydney. And the track in Sydney, I think, might be slow. Max will tell us about that in a moment. How are you, Keith?
I'm well, thanks, Bruce. We saw racing at its best yesterday in Sydney. March here, I think, is going to be a horse to follow. And at Caulfield, we saw racing with a grave bias to the front runners. The row was out 9 metres, which I think was too far.
And Max, just before we introduce Simon, who rode Durbridge yesterday, your impressions of the Warwick Stakes, March here, and maybe the criticism from Anthony Freedman about apprentices being allowed to ride in weight for age races.
I have no doubt the criticism is valid. After all, weight for age races are the showcases of racing. We ought to have our best horses and best riders going around. Some of our best riders don't do all that well in weight for age races, but yesterday I don't think that you could hold Greg Keane, the apprentice to which Anthony was referring, and Tiago Nick anyway responsible for Durbridge's defeat. I just don't think Durbridge was on his game, but Simon Marshall would be in a better position to know about that than I was.
Tell us, Simon, did Tiago Nick's tactics mess you up, and was the horse feeling right?
I was going to get a beautiful run, Bruce, just back half a length behind Gavin Eads' horse who led, but when Tiago Nick moved up outside me, he did tend to over-race, and being a little fresh, well, I didn't really want him doing it at that stage of the race. Now, I came back a length and moved outside Tiago Nick on the point of the bend. I had March Hare racing 3/4 of a length back outside me there, and the stewards called me in after the race to ask me why he flopped, and as we were watching the videotape on the point of the bend, March Hare touched him just a couple of times on the rump, and he tended to want to race into the bend too quick, and by the time I'd reached the 300 metre mark, I was a beaten horse. He was not stretching to the best he can, and I thought that his run was very similar to his BMW run, where he just never got to the line at all that day.
Well, he came back from that, didn't he, and won quite brilliantly in Queensland when he won the Doomben Cup on the Hollandale. So
he won the Queen Elizabeth after the BMW.
So all is not lost with him. He is 7 years of age, though, Keith, isn't he? I mean, I'm not going to knock him. He's been a wonderful horse, but you do wonder at 7 years of age.
Yes, he's being asked to do a lot, isn't he, Bruce? Like to be competitive in a BMW where he wasn't on his game, and then again yesterday to show pace. Look, he'll come back. He will win races, but I think March Hare's performance, he was wide all the way, 3 wide all the way, and I think he's going to win more races. He's not coming to Melbourne because, like Max, he's not all that keen on Melbourne. He doesn't perform well here.
Yeah, but unfortunately, Max, you are coming back, and he's not. We'd much rather see March Hare than you.
Yes, well, put it this way. I do perform in Melbourne, but a little bit better.
We know that, Max. We went out with you last year, remember?
Yes, they put Keith to bed for 3 days after.
Exactly.
Just getting back to Durbridge, if I may, though, those little prats that happen to Durbridge, surely, Simon, they're little minor things that happen in a race. You can't hold a top-class racehorse and say he just wasn't able to go as sweet as you would have liked. He got a couple little bumps on the backside. Good horses should be able to overcome that. Certainly, he was off his day. He pulled up with a respiratory problem too, I believe. So it's just a run to forget. But don't let's split straws, please.
That's why they're good racehorses, though, Max, I think, because they're such competitors, and when they get a horse moving up 3/4 to half a length outside them and they feel a brush, well, it's naturally a common reaction. They get really keen and they want to race forward.
How weight for age races, we talk about, I mean, Max, we've talked about weight for age races this morning and how they're different for jockeys. Are they so different from riding in a weight for age race as to riding in a handicap?
Exactly. Big difference, Bruce. A big difference. I mean, there's a lot more pressure, and the key is tactics. If you're not switched on, you haven't done your form, and you don't know where you're going to be or what you're doing in the race, you've got no hope whatsoever.
Oh, fair enough. Well, yesterday it looked all right, didn't it, until about the 700 metres mark, and then it turned on you. Yes. Well, it'll be interesting. You reckon he'll come up, Durbridge?
Yes, well, as I said, he flopped in the BMW. Now, came out and he won the Queen Elizabeth by 2 and blitzed him that day, so don't forget him yet. He's a very good horse.
Well, talking of good horses, here, Arrogant, who won the Silver Shadow yesterday, can't she find the line? A terrific performance again. Danarani looks top class too, Max. We might have seen the best 2 fillies, certainly out of Sydney yesterday in this race.
Yes, to my eye, Danarani had the more scope for improvement, but Arrogant's just one of those terrific fillies. She just wants to get to the line. Now, she's in the yellow colours, back about 7th or 8th place, buffeting now. Now, she's getting a buffet and a bump, but it doesn't stop her. She takes off. Now, down the the outside, Origin. Here she comes, the Iceman cometh. And does she pick him up when she sees that winning post?
She cooks Lee, you're talking about, aren't you? She has got a great will to win. Danarani, Keith, from the Cummings stable, just having a second start inside, running second, looks very good.
She's full of potential. The winner had won more than $250,000 before yesterday, and Danarani less than $10,000 for a midweek Canterbury debut win. Yes, she's a filly to follow for sure. And they met at level weights, remember, too.
What will Origin do? Go along the Princess the Princess bonus line and then eventually come to Melbourne?
Yes, she'll go to Melbourne for the 1,000 guineas. They're thinking about the Cox Plate, but let's pick up the Princess for a start, and also the 1,000 guineas would be a good measuring stick. At Warwick Farm yesterday, there was an element of opinion that thought it was an advantage to come down the outside. Romantica in that race was very wide all the way, hung on for third. Horses did seem to, particularly late in the day, did seem to appreciate the outside, but I wonder too whether it might have just been that, like March Hare, the best horses on the day were on the outside.
Well, I did enjoy your article in the Sydney Morning Herald about March Hare and the change with the problems he's had with his feet, and they certainly worked yesterday. He did have a wing on every hoof, Max, as you suggested he might have. Barcara winning yesterday in Melbourne, Keith. Terrific win, his first win for a couple of years now with George Hanlon, but the story of the race was Paris Lane, wasn't it? And to a lesser extent, I'm sure.
Barcara was aided by the track bias to front runners, but Paris Lane, that made his run even more noticeable. It was an eye-catcher, the eye-catching run of the day. Paris Lane near last, and he finishes second. He's into the picture now with the yellow cap. And Barcara, who's had 10 wins and 13 placings from only 33 starts, ran well.
Watch Laura's Express hit the running rail there and flatten Royal Rubiton completely, the 9-4 favourite. They were out of it. And here's Paris Lane, yellow cap about 4 out, and Mansure inside of it, and they steamed to the line. Simon, he's part of this great Freedman stable, Paris Lane. You've ridden, you ride for Lee.
Yes,
you had a chance of...
Paris Lane ran second to Durbridge a couple of times, as you know, over the Brisbane Carnival at group age. And I believe the day Durbridge beat him in the Doomben Cup, he, when Greg protested against me on Paris Lane, he was just a juvenile. He was inexperienced. I believe, being an experienced horse, he would have won the protest that day because he would have been able to held his ground. Now, Paris Lane is going to be a very exciting 4-year-old. I think he will run a good, strong 2,000 metres. 24 just may test him, but depends how he's come up this time.
Could he challenge Mahogany, do you think, at weight for age at 2,000 metres?
Definitely, definitely.
That's interesting.
It's a very big statement, son.
Yes, well, you know, you have a look at where Paris Lane's come in such a short time, Keith. He's all of a sudden exploded onto the scene, and I mean, running second to Durbridge and Neck and beating the length, you know, at Group 1 level.
And Durbridge beat Mahogany last year at Group 1 level at weight for age. It is an interesting one. And Wayne Wilson, a very good judge who spends the winter with us on Sportsworld, said the one horse to follow from the Winter Carnival was Paris Lane. He mentioned Origin as well, but that was his big highlight.
Well, around Australia yesterday, he was the one who just had a winner stamped on him, Bruce.
Sorry, Simon.
The only one to ask there, Bruce, would be G. Hall, mate.
Greg Hall, well, that's right. He should know, shouldn't he?
He should, yes.
On the back of both of them.
Exactly.
Well, good win by Cannibal King. I know, Max, this horse leading all the way. It's in Keith's territory yesterday, but John Hawkes is going to make a... Well, he's going to give Lee Freedman and David Hayes great competition, isn't he, throughout the spring?
I don't think he'll rival them in the Trainers' Premiership, but he will give them great competition. He's going to be there. He's going to win a lot of races. I just wonder how much the track bias played into Cannibal King's hands here. And don't forget, he's a hard-fit horse. He's a fast horse. He'll always be competitive, but Bruce, don't get carried away just yet with Cannibal King.
I tend to agree with you, Max. He and St Covert will clash again in the Ascot Vale, and St Covert will beat him as he did at Moonee Valley.
Blevick looked all right, didn't he?
Yes, he was the one that he carried the full penalty, giving weight to all his rivals, and he ran well, first up.
Well, High Water's got a carrot cake given to him, didn't he, last start at Moonee Valley when he had his 100th start?
I'd like some crumbs of the same cake, Bruce, because it improved him lengths. And this is High Waters leading all the way. McCarthy, who made a late charge at him, would have given the Punters Club at Caulfield yesterday probably the only ticket on the straight six. It's the only one.
What was it worth?
$408,000. It would have been worth $1,100 per ticket. And the carrot cake horse, High Waters, just responds and would not refuse to be passed.
I bet you were barrack against him. Tall Lord's the one I'm interested in. On the left, favourite for the Cups. He looked terribly disappointing.
Well, he did nothing to enhance his chances, really. He dawdled out the back all the way. Perhaps he's now a dour stayer and he's going to have to work himself into fitness, but I would have liked to have seen him do something because that field was pretty weak.
Looked like he might want further too, Bruce, on that run. He had no ping about him. And, I mean, John Murray's an excellent man with the horse and he'll assess the horse. And I just think on that run he might want further.
Oh, he's a great trainer. There's no question about that. Big meetings today, Max. Tell us about the track conditions in Sydney.
We've had heavy overnight rain at Randwick. Currently the going is slow. No more rain, and it could improve, but by gee, it's cloudy in Sydney, and I would say that the track is definitely going to be rain affected. Look for your mud runners.
Keith, Sandown should be good?
Well, at Sandown today, the track will be good. We're going to see the best first-up horse in Australia, Mahogany. The best horse in Australia, to my mind, Mahogany, and he'll win the Liston Stakes today. I think he's a good thing.
Well, we've all agreed here on the tips for the two big races. Mahogany, 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 named after Max, and then Lord Jim, Lord Jim, Lord Jim. But what does Rock mean, Keith, after Mahogany? You've got me baffled.
Well, I was starting to tell you that Mahogany's a bird today, but he's more than a bird. He's a big bird. He's a rock, previously thought to be extinct until there was a sighting of Mahogany in the Form Guide today. The Rock carried Sinbad the Sailor. That's how big a bird Mahogany is today, Bruce.
Hey, isn't he great, Max? Giving us a 9 to 4 on special. Isn't it terrific? Wasting a half a minute of our time. Max, catch you...
It is what is known as coming in on the grouter.
Max, we'll catch you next week. Simon, thank you. Good luck for the rest of the spring.
Pleasure, Bruce.
And Keith, we'll catch you.
See you next week, Bruce.
Good punting. We take a break. Back with Peter Brock after this.